Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast, where liking what you like is never a bad thing. Here's your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday.
Hey y'all, I'm your host and head fangirl in charge, Patty Holiday. Welcome to the No Guilt Fangirls Podcast. If you're new around here, hi and welcome. And you have joined in at the perfect time because we are going to do some fangirling big time of Sam and Bucky and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's going to be a whole series of these recaps after every Friday after we get to watch the show. We're going to talk about it. And just a heads up, this is going to be spoilerly. It is going to have Easter eggs in it. It's going to have all the good stuff. If that is not your jam or you want to wait because you haven't actually seen the show yet, come back and listen to us once you have. But if you are new and just visiting and you like what you hear, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a 5-star rating or a review. It helps with the algorithm and it helps other fangirls and guys find us. And of course, you know it's no fun to fangirl alone. Speaking of which, I am not fangirling alone today. I have Ashley back with us. Now, Ashley joined us for all of WandaVision. We went on a deep dive of WandaVision, talked about each episode in recapping. She is filling in some blanks for me. For those that aren't familiar with her, Ashley, hi.
Hi, I'm excited to be back for this. So thanks for having me.
I know. No, I'm so glad to have you here. Why Ashley? So Ashley's here because she is a big old comic book nerd, and I am not. I don't know a whole lot about some of this, background and history as to why things happen the way they happen in the MCU. And so I always go to my friend Ashley, who puts together some really great resources to kind of fill me in on those holes, because I'm not going to read comic books, but it's okay because I have a friend that reads comic books. And so she helps me out. And that's why she's here. She's also going to help you out if you have some of those questions. Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you online.
Well, hey, I'm Ashley. I'm a mega nerd, comic books, fandoms, kind of like a little bit of everything. You can find me on my website with ashleyandco.com, online, on Twitter at @AshleyAaron. I also contribute over at cbr.com, and I have a podcast as well called Geek Girls Universe.
Awesome. All right, Ashley. Yeah, so we're going to do this recap of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We got to see episode 1 in a screener, and that was a good surprise in my inbox. I gotta say I was super excited. And typically when Ashley and I recorded these for WandaVision, she'd be texting me on Friday morning going, have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? And I was like, oh, I'll get there. I haven't had time. I'll tell you what, I did not mess around. As soon as that sucker hit my email, I logged in and pulled up that screener and watched it immediately, because I didn't want to sleep on this one, like even for a second. So that's the good news. And this episode is probably going to come out on Friday, along with the brand new episode that gets dropped on Disney Plus of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But guys, don't get used to that because I don't really have my ish together that much. So most likely we will do these recaps on Sunday or Monday. So you can look for that in your feed. But if you don't want to miss anything, just hit subscribe and it'll show up for you. There could be situations where I am more with it and we are able to record sooner, but just in case, I wanted to set expectations on when you can look for these episodes. Typically not going to be on a Friday, but who knows? Weirder things have happened. And, at this point in pandemic, maybe I will get my act together. I don't think so, but anywho. All right. So what we do is Ashley starts the breakdown. She starts running down with the recap. I interrupt with my questions or my comments or how I felt about the episode. And we just kind of go from there. So Ashley, take it away.
All right. I can't wait to get to the end because I think you and I had a similar reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did.
But all right, let's start at the beginning. So this show I can't wait for everybody to see it. For everyone who complained that WandaVision started too slow, this one does not start slow at all. It drops you right into the action. It's very much like a Marvel movie, especially that opening action sequence. It's definitely like a big screen blockbuster feel.
Oh, it was, yeah, very cool. And that's, my first comment is going to be that I continue to be impressed with the quality of what the MCU is putting together for Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I don't see cutting corners. Like this feels like you just said, this feels like the Marvel movie that we're used to. And you are not going to be disappointed. I think especially in those first opening moments, you're going to have this sense of familiarity, a sense of, all right, this is what I was looking for. This is the MCU 100%, I love 100%. That you probably did not have when you were watching WandaVision, because let's be honest, that started off really weird. I mean, it all made sense later and I loved it from the get-go, but not everybody did. And I get that. So right. I guess that's also, comment A is if you were concerned about these shows because you couldn't get into WandaVision, which by the way, I challenge you to go back, and even if you have to start at episode 3 and go forward and then go back and watch 1 and 2 later, I get that, because 1 and 2 were on the odd side of things. But it all made sense. And it was just such a brilliant show. But anyway, this is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, not WandaVision. So yeah, we drop straight into the action and we kick things off right away.
The events of this show are taking place 6 months after the events of Endgame. So we see Sam with the shield that Cap gave him. He's zipping it up into the carrying case. He looks very somber. And you hear that dialogue track from Endgame where Steve gives him the shield and he's telling him, how does it feel? And Sam says it feels like it belongs to someone else. And Steve says, but it doesn't. But again, Sam is still struggling with I'm not Cap. I'm not Steve. I can't carry this shield. But immediately the scene switches and Sam gets probably the best action sequence we have seen for Falcon yet. It's a long sequence, but I don't want to say that and you think, oh gosh, it's long in a bad way. It definitely was not long in a bad way. It was heck yes, this is amazing. He's battling the LAF, which is led by a familiar face, Batroc, who we last saw in Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's wearing his classic comic book colors of this dark maroonish, purplish color with yellow. They battle it out. Sam manages to save the day and save the operative that was taken captive, but Batroc gets away, which is a good thing because Zemo, we know, is hanging out somewhere. And Batroc and Zemo team up in the comics for a supervillain team. So we'll see Batroc again, I'm sure, before the end of it. Sam's suit took some damage. It is confirmed that it is a Stark Industries suit, which they kind of hinted at in the trailers where he had carrying a briefcase with the Stark logo on it. So we know that he's got some Stark tech. His buddy Torres is hanging around. That's the funny guy that's in the car, and then he's just Sam, do you need some backup? What's going on? He seems really fun, kind of young and inexperienced, maybe a bit compared to Sam. And there is a comic book tie-in for a Torres and Falcon. In the comics, it's Joaquin Torres, and he ends up becoming Falcon while Sam is Captain America. I don't know if they'll go that route or if this is just one of those, here's a nod to the comics. Torres begins to tell Sam about the Flag Smashers, which I love that Sam pointed out that it's a terrible bad guy name, because that was my first reaction when I heard that Flag Smasher was going to be in the show. I'm that is probably the worst bad guy name on the planet.
Yeah, he has a good quote about that. He's so now the bad guys give themselves bad names? What?
Yes. I laughed because seriously, it's terrible. It's a terrible name.
Yep.
It's saying I don't know, I'm puppy hater. It's just not creative.
No, it's not. It's not.
But anyways, this group of people believe the world was a better place during the blip, and their goal is to create a unified world with no borders. However, they're going to be violent to do so. This isn't a peaceful takeover. This is a hostile takeover. In the comic books, the original Flag Smasher was Carl Morgenthau. In the show, Erin Kellyman, who was in Star Wars Solo, A Star Wars Story, she's playing Carly Morgenthau. So daughter, perhaps, sister, or they're just changing the character, period. Sam's just like, all right, okay, let me know what comes up. Torres is like, I'm going to keep an eye on the message boards online, because that's how the Flag Smashers hang out. Then we hit the Smithsonian, where Rhodey and the head of the Department of Defense is there to watch as Sam surrenders Steve's shield to the Smithsonian. Because again, Sam doesn't feel like it belongs to him. He tells Rhodey that too, because Rhodey asks him what we asked, right? Sam, why aren't you Captain America? Why didn't you become Captain America? And unfortunately, Sam's still struggling with it.
Yeah, no, Sam's, and this was the first, the first clue, I guess, that Marvel yet again is going to surprise us. This opened up the discussion and the very deep, I think, that we're going to be getting into, and even by the end of this episode, we were there, discussions of grief, loss, PTSD,
Yes.
5 years after the blip, and everything that goes into what these characters, well, real people, but, what reality was like. When we talked about the blip before in phase 3, it was always very casual and kind of funny, right? It was just like they were there, then they were back. And then as we saw with WandaVision, we brought some of that reality of what happened when these people were gone for 5 years. And then here we are again dealing with some of those issues for Sam. And part of what struck me about Sam is I was disappointed in him, I will admit. But then I was just like, come on, man. Like, that's a pretty big thing that Cap just kind of gave him. But I guess I expected him not necessarily to become Captain America, but I didn't expect him to give it up. I didn't expect him to give it away. Frankly, I get it. He's giving it to the Smithsonian. It's, some place that you would assume would be a safe place for it to go. Like, I understand that. But but I was very sad during that scene. And I was just like, oh, Sam, man, don't give up.
Yeah, it was definitely sad. I mean, we kind of figured it was going to happen based on not only Sam's feelings, but also just interviews with the cast, that they were going to be dealing with this, and Sam's like reluctance and the government's reluctance, right? For Sam to be Captain America. And yes, what you're talking about with the PTSD and the trauma to the everyday person, again, like, yes, the show gets into that. And I like that. The show is very character driven versus being plot driven. So we're going to be able to really get to know Sam and Bucky more in this series. And just, I swear they probably had more of a character arc in these 45 minutes than they've had in the previous however many films they've been in, honestly, because they really had time to sit with them. We had time to sit with them and sit with their feelings. But yes, before we get to the sads.
Yeah. There's definitely feelings in this one.
Yes, definitely feelings. So we leave Sam, and all of a sudden that familiar techno eerie feel hits, and Bucky in his Winter Soldier glory takes out a whole group of people for Hydra in this like fancy hotel. Unfortunately, a young man who happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time also gets killed. But we learn it's a nightmare. Bucky wakes up. He's in his house, sleeping on the floor still. He's clearly still struggling with life. But he's in therapy, which I love to see it. I love to see it. Let's normalize getting help.
Oh, for sure. And the therapist is fabulous.
Oh, I love her. I love her so much. She's the same one that's in the trailer where they have the staring contest. And she's been there, right? So she's been a soldier. she knows when he's lying, and she's very frank with him. She doesn't sugarcoat things. She's just like, look, dude, you are isolating yourself. And that's like your own personal HE double hockey sticks. Like, you don't want to do that. But what I found interesting was he has a list of amends. And it's kind of funny the way he goes through like how he's taking care of his list. There are a list of scores he needs to settle. In the episode, he is referring to a senator that he helped when he was the Winter Soldier gain power, and now he's provided evidence so that she can be arrested, which was hilarious because he's like, oh, no, of course not. I didn't hurt anyone, as he like punches the guy like in the face. I was like, oh, Bucky.
Yes. Yeah. I loved it. He has these steps that he has to go through, and he, kind of explains this as his therapist is sitting there going, like he's not getting anything past her. She knows what you know what I mean? You could just see it on her face.
Right.
It was such a great little episode too. But I loved it when she calls him out and she's like, look, I've been there. I know what you're dealing with, because she's also a former soldier, it sounds like. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of that was when he does the whole, I am no longer the Winter Soldier. I am James Buchanan Barnes. And he does that like awkward smile thing like, ha. I was like, oh gosh, I love it. But so we get to see Bucky's list, at least part of it. And there's some interesting names on there. One of which is an old Iron Man villain who does have ties to the Winter Soldier in the comic books. And that would be the first one, Rostov, the Red Barbarian in the comics. He tried to steal some Stark Industries tech. He eventually is a warden at a gulag where Bucky is serving time. And he dies mysteriously in the comic books, but it's a comic book about the Winter Soldier. And he's taken out by a sniper. And what is Bucky Barnes? A sniper. So curiouser and curiouser, as Alice would say. And then the name, of course, that will stick out to everyone is Zemo. Obviously, Bucky has a score to settle with Helmut Zemo. Zemo's in the show. It's going to go down at some point between those two.
Yeah,
Bucky
it's
is
happening.
out for him because if you remember in Civil War, he impersonated Bucky, got crimes, pinned on him that he didn't do. When the man just was trying to eat his plums in peace, he brainwashed him using the Hydra wording, and then of course caused Steve and Iron Man to have a complete falling out. So it's like, Zemo, he's coming for you, basically. Watch yourself.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, that's when it's going to get real good.
Exactly. Yeah, so Bucky has befriended an elderly Asian man named Yori, and it's hilarious to watch him interact because clearly Bucky feels more at home with the older generation than he does people that are quote-unquote his age, although his real age is 106. But Yori is a great character for him. He's kind of cranky like Bucky. He even sets Bucky up on a date, which is hilarious. Bucky's like, oh my gosh, the guy I haven't dated since 1943, it feels like. So like I said, there's that classic Marvel humor sprinkled in throughout the show. That's one of the funnier parts. And then we meet Sam's sister in Louisiana. Her name is Sarah. She's a widow. She has two sons. And while Sam was away, she's been struggling to keep their family business afloat. And she's another one of those real world connections where this is how it's affecting real people. Sam being gone for 5 years because, he faded. This is what happened to her in these 5 years, and they go to the bank. They're trying to save the business. And the bank's like, oh, can't help you because, things are tight, and makes excuses.
Well, and I also like this too because it was just a real, I don't want to say realistic, but it was such a cringeworthy, sad, moment. And I guess again, maybe this explains why Sam was not push forward as Captain America or didn't want that extra mess on him. But they're sitting there in the bank, and the loan manager is like, wait a minute, don't I know you? I know you.
He was such a
And
tool.
he was such a tool. And he finally, and so, Sam like leans into it thinking like, this is a good way we can connect. If he knows who I am, then, maybe that will help my sister get this loan that we so desperately need. And so he definitely is, Sam's not, he's not like the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok that's taking selfies with everybody and whatever. Like that's not his comfort, but he willingly like plays along because he thinks it might do something. Well, it does not. The bank manager still turns him down. The sister is just, I don't think she had any hope going into this. She knew where this was going to end up, but basically she was like, see, I told you.
Right.
And so here they are, they leave. I found it also kind of interesting because he asked the question we all wanted to know is like, Sam, how do you get paid? And he's like, well, there's people that are thankful for what I've done. And he's like, but I have government contracts now. Like, doesn't that count? And he was like, well, no, it doesn't.
No, because you've been gone for 5 years. And it's like, okay, well, it's not like he chose that,
Right, exactly. So yeah, it was definitely a like I said, a cringy, but important, scene and session to see play out there. Again, a lot of reality is coming into the lives of these characters that, we might have thought it was just going to be all about shooting the bad guys and, getting stuff done and witty quips back and forth. And Marvel's like, haha, first we're going to make you really get to know these guys because as you pointed out, like we haven't really gotten to know them in the past. Like there was moments between Steve and Bucky, and there were moments between Sam and Steve, but it still seemed to focus more on like Steve at the time, right? And now Steve is out of the equation, and we are left with Sam and with Bucky as men dealing with everything that they've had to deal with in their past, and then trying to make their way forward in the future. Bucky through his awesome therapy and his amends making, and Sam trying to work things with his sister so that they can keep their parents' business literally afloat. It's a boat. Anyway, so that's my boat joke. So yeah, I just, again, Marvel just keeps surprising us. But that bank scene just struck me as I was like, oh, stop it, make it stop. Cause it was so uncomfortable. Right. But you know what? I think that's unfortunately reality, or would be, in this kind of situation. So
100%.
All right. So they leave the bank. So what happens next?
Okay. So well, technically they haven't gotten to the bank yet. We kind of skipped ahead, but it's okay. So while Sam's dealing with like the real world implications of the blip on his family and his livelihood and such outside of beating up bad guys, Bucky's dealing with his PTSD. And we learn that the elderly man that he has befriended is the father of the guy that was killed by the Winter Soldier in the earlier flashback / nightmare that he was having. And Bucky is obviously riddled with guilt over it. He wants to tell him. It's actually interesting that his amends list includes Yori's name. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that the names on the left-hand side are the ones that he's like out to bring to justice. And then the ones on the right might be the ones that he feels guilty about. Mm-hmm. It was sad to watch him. You could see that he wanted to say something and he felt awful, but Yori's just like, what's wrong? And he's just like, he panics and he's like, oh, I forgot to pay you for lunch. And then he kind of leaves, but it's the middle of the night, like, why are you now? It was obviously an odd situation. Yori was just like worried about him, but I felt so bad. Poor Bucky.
Well, I felt, yes, because I felt terrible for him, but I also really felt for Yori because the death of his son and what happened, they do say this literally. I just want to know what happened. And like Bucky's right there going, but do you? Do you
Right.
really? Because it's not a good story. It's
Right.
not. And so he still, at that point, he didn't admit it. He didn't say anything. He just left. He wasn't ready
Uh-huh.
to take that next step. But that was a little heartbreaking on both sides of things. I really felt for Yori and I really felt for
Mm-hmm.
Bucky in that moment. And the acting in this show, so good. So
Yes.
good. Yeah. And especially if you watch Sebastian Stan's face,
Oh, yeah.
he's got some very great expressions that are just so super subtle, but they say a whole lot. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're watching this, like go back and really kind of just watch his facial expressions because they're pretty great.
Yes. I gushed about Sebastian Stan in my review for this episode
Mm-hmm.
because he has always done a stellar job at portraying the myriad of emotions that Bucky / the Winter Soldier has felt. And what I was reminded of when he was looking at Yori, and Yori has like a memorial in his house, and Bucky could see that from the doorway, was when in Civil War, when Tony goes, "Do you even remember them?" And he's like almost crying because he goes, "I remember them all."
Yeah.
So, he knows exactly, what happened. And it's just, I'm sure it eats at him every time he sees Yori because it's just a reminder. So, but yes, Sebastian Stan is just, he's phenomenal at being like that sarcastic guy, or like, gets annoyed with Falcon, but at the same time is like completely broken
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in other scenes. So the last bit of action we see, Torres has followed the Flag Smashers to Switzerland, and instead of calling in backup, like, I don't know, maybe I would do, he decides to see what these secret meetings are all about. He doesn't know what's going to happen, so maybe I'll let it slide that he didn't feel like he needed backup. But anyways, they are robbing a bank. And they use the chaos of the fact that everybody that has gathered for this mob all are wearing the Flag Smasher like face mask looking thing with like the handprint. And the main Flag Smasher, the leader, apparently, he's just walking away. And Torres is like, "Oh no, like, you're not getting away. You're under arrest. Like, I don't even know how this works here with jurisdiction, but you're under arrest." This dude is very strong and he makes short work of Torres. He's so strong, in fact, I wonder if he's got some sort of enhancement. Now, in the comics, he does
Mm-hmm.
not, but things can be changed up for the MCU. But when he kicked him, like, or like smacked him, when he smacked him, he like flew across the like road. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Pretty strong.
there's definitely something going on with that guy because
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. I mean, that was like really powerful. Like, I'm honestly surprised Torres's back wasn't broken, that he
Mm-hmm.
survived with just like a broken orbital. I'm like, dude, you should be dead, honestly. Like, let's be real. So while Sam's like, "Oh man," like, I know he's probably thinking like, I gotta deal with this. Sarah comes in. This is post the bank scene. This is the very end. And Sarah's like, "You're not gonna believe this." Turns on the news and they watch as the Defense Department names a new Captain America. It's U.S. Agent John Walker, and he walks out wearing his comic book accurate suit and carrying Steve's shield, and he winks like a total, Hayward into the camera. And I was so angry sitting there. I was so mad. And I've been mad about it in the trailers because I knew he was getting the shield. And every time I saw him give that high five, I was like, vomit. But I was like extra angry watching this.
Yeah, I didn't expect it this soon. Like, I didn't expect that was the cliffhanger that they were going to leave us on. So just a quick recap. What we have seen so far is Sam is still doing his Falcon thing, and he has this awesome, experience in the beginning where he's kicking booty and taking names, right? And
Right.
then you flip and you get like this emotional side, and he's dealing with he doesn't feel like he's worthy of the shield, and so he gives it up, and then he's dealing with his sister and like this guilt of how he was gone for all that time and she had to struggle on her own. But of course, like, it's not like it was his fault, right? He was blipped, right?
Right.
So you got all of that going on for Sam. And then at the end, they shove this in his face that you gave up the shield, so we gave it to someone else. And by the way, that is not America's ass. I just want to point this out. No offense to Mr. Russell. It's lovely, but it is not. And I'm a little offended that they even tried that. Okay. Yeah, I was mad too. And I was surprised by the level of my anger. And I guess that's because I'm a Team Cap girl. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, Steve's intentions were that Sam would take this. And then here we are, we're giving it to some other guy. And, I don't know this other guy. You can fill us in on what to expect from him. But I don't know, maybe he's a great guy too. But that was not my initial reaction because they made him look exactly like Steve Rogers. And that's where I was like, flipping tables going, oh, no, you did not. And then also the look on Sam's face as he's watching this because he cannot believe that that's what they have done.
I was so mad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've watched it several times, the whole episode, and I still get angry at the end. So U.S. agent, he was in the comic books chosen to be Captain America because the government didn't want Falcon to be Captain America in the comics. And you can kind of guess maybe why that is. One of them looks like Steve and one of them does not.
Mm-hmm.
So, but U.S. agent is not a good guy. He's a tool in so many ways.
Okay.
He has in the past, created scenarios where bad guys are doing things so that he can come in and save the day to make himself look good.
Oh, okay.
And in the trailers, he is seen. I mean, I know trailers can be deceptive. We all know, right? The Infinity War and Endgame trailers had stuff in it that didn't ever happen. But he's seen on top of those, the 18-wheeler like fight scene that's shown in the trailers. He's standing there, and he doesn't look like he's helping Falcon and Bucky. He looks like he's helping the bad guys or doing nothing, which is also, not helpful.
Right.
So, I mean, if I had any doubt that he was going to be like a bad guy, that wink into the camera kind of was like, yep, there it is. He's a total. Where's Darcy? I need Darcy to come in and say the word I'm not allowed to say on a family podcast.
I'm telling you, we need the MCU recap combo of Darcy and Lewis giving us some of the real talk.
Yes, please. I would love it. But yeah, he's not a good guy. He's not. And he's definitely not Steve Rogers, nowhere close. No one is going to ever be Steve, but he's definitely nowhere near Steve's level. And I know Sam will get it back in the end, but it's still just like, it grates on my nerves.
Yeah.
Touching Steve's shield. I'm like, don't touch that. You are not allowed to touch that.
Well, I mean, and I definitely think that response was there in Sam's face as well. And the whole time I kept going, okay, so this is what's going to bring Sam and Bucky together, right?
Right. I mean, it has to. I think this will be Falcon or Bucky will actually answer Sam's text now. Like, did you just see, kind of like we did, did you just see what happened? I'm so mad, we're going to have to go get that shield back because he ain't allowed to have it.
No. Yeah. So that was the big cliffhanger they left us on this week. And there wasn't anything in post credits or mid credits for this episode. So that could be coming. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, overall, my thoughts, obviously, I'm down. I'm in it. It surprised me. I knew it was going to be a fun show in the sense of the action and the adventure, and that there's going to be the bad guys and the good guys. And I like all of that stuff. So, I mean, I knew we were going to have that level of stuff happening. This one was always kind of said that it was going to be the more traditional MCU show versus what we got with WandaVision, and even what to expect with Loki.
Right.
That one's also going to be a little different and a little banana pants because it's got time travel and stuff involved with it, which is, going to make us all very confused and blow our minds until it all comes together and we go, oh, okay. Anyway, so this one is your comfort food. This one is your MCU comfort food.
I like that.
But I gotta say, like, don't get too comfortable, because even in this first episode, we're going deep, and but not uncomfortable deep, but just a very good reminder that some bad stuff happened, to these characters and these folks, and they're all dealing with it in different ways. And I love it. I love how Marvel continues to surprise me. I never know. I was not going to expect to be so charmed by Bucky in therapy as I was. And I can't wait for more. This is going to be so good.
Yes. And I have to say, because this show kind of tonally matches my favorite MCU film, which is The Winter Soldier. So if you also love Captain America, The Winter Soldier, you're going to love it. Henry Jackman, who did the music for it, is doing the music for the show. And I was so excited about it. I like sure. I'm 100% sold. Bucky is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. So naturally, I'm sold, but I'm extra sold, I guess, now. And now I'm like, I can't wait to see next week, because I think Zemo is going to come in next week. I have a feeling he'll make his intro. Okay. And I'm excited because he's a really great villain, not because he's super powered, but because he's super smart.
Well, and the thing about this series, also keep in mind, folks, it's only 6 episodes.
6? Oh, yeah. No.
So, come on, Marvel. But that's okay. That's okay. I feel comfortable and confident that they're going to give us a full and complete, hard-hitting 6 seasons, and nobody is going to be left unsatisfied. So it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. But there's only 6. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, if you are new-ish to the MCU, or at least new to these characters, or didn't pay a lot of attention to the characters before and want to know where you can find them and why they're important and all of that great stuff, I have a blog post for you. I will link it in show notes. But it's, basically what to watch before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And these are the highlight reel of these characters. If you want the cheater version, Disney Plus has already put that together for you. And that is in the Legends series on Disney Plus. If you go to Disney Plus and you pull up the Legends, then you can get little short, like 6 or 7 minute clips where they have just pulled together the highlights from all of these characters. And they have Zemo on there, they have Bucky, they have Sam, and they have Sharon Carter, who is coming into play probably next episode, my guess. I think she's in Madripoor, which we know they end up in. I'd have to go back and look. Or she's in Sokovia, because that's where Zemo is. Oh, okay. So we're going to get Sharon Carter playing a big part in this series as well. If you're like, who's Sharon Carter? Then go to that blog post and you can go back and find her history and whatnot. But also I'm with Ashley. Like, if you want one movie out of the entire MCU to watch that would pertain to this, go sit down and watch yourself some Captain America Winter Soldier, because it's phenomenal. And that's where you meet Winter Soldier, and you also meet Falcon. You meet Sam as well. And it's great. It's got the hands down the best fight scene. Sorry to all the other fight scenes, but that elevator scene.
Yes. And then the knife thing too. Like Bucky.
Oh, the knife thing is pretty big. Like, but anyway, so that's our recommendation. All right. So we're going to wrap this one up, but we will be back next week. And if you want to keep fangirling the MCU, as you do, of course, come back next week after you watch the episode, and let's have a talk. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about what's happening. For funsies, Ashley, what's your prediction? Where's the theme of this going? Who are we ending with? How is it all going to like complete? Tell me what you think is going to happen. Tying into comics or not, I'm just curious because we were so wrong about a lot of things in WandaVision, but you actually hit a few things on the head. So I want to make sure before the fan theories start popping up and drive us all crazy, I want to hear what you have to say before we get to that point.
Okay. Well, so kind of comic booky. I think Zemo is going to form either the Masters of Evil or the Thunderbolts. Now, the Thunderbolts have already been kind of rumored to be coming to the MCU. We have a lot of their players already in the field, including Thaddeus Ross. The thing with the Thunderbolts is they kind of were born out of the Masters of Evil, which they turned themselves into the Thunderbolts in order to do good guy things. But really, they were just doing that so that they could do bad guy things undercover. With Zemo very adamant that he wants to finish what he started in Civil War and get rid of superheroes, that would be the way to do it. And Batroc is also one of those members, which is why I said the fact that he's still alive and Zemo's in the show, I could see them getting together at some point. And I know Sam's going to get the shield back. I'm predicting that we'll get to see his comic book Captain America suit by the end of it. And going forward, I think this ties into the Thunderbolts that's been rumored. Black Widow for sure, because again, Ross is in the Black Widow movie. So I guess it'll kind of back tie into it. Is that how you would say that? Because remember, Black Widow was supposed to be first anyway in Phase 4. So I think possibly one of her post-credit scenes might tie more directly into this. And with them going to Madripoor, which is related to the mutants a bit, but because it's like an Asian-based culture, I wonder if we'll see something that ties us into Shang-Chi, which is coming out this year.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. As I was like, they're going to have to tie in some of these, especially Shang-Chi, something that most of us MCU people know nothing about. Like I've got no frame of reference other than I absolutely adore Simu Liu. Like love him.
Yes.
But I don't know the comic. I don't know the story. I don't know the history of it. So that was my assumption, is that there's got to be some kind of tie-in that they're going to give us this little nugget. Even if somebody like me doesn't catch that that's what it is now, later when I am watching that movie, I'll be like, I remember that, or they'll flashback, or they'll give us something to like say, hi Patty, this is what we were talking about, you know? Because they're really good.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so they're really good about that. So, all right, cool. All right, well, all right, folks. You know, it is no fun to fangirl alone. So definitely share this episode with your friends. Come talk to us in our Facebook group. We are at Marvel Moms on Facebook, and happy to have discussions every week about anything Marvel related. We do not do DC there because we don't do DC anywhere. And I'm saying that like the day that the Snyder Cut comes out, right?
I like it.
Are you gonna watch it?
Ew, no.
Yeah, I'm like 4 hours of a like mediocre movie in the first place. I can't imagine it got that much better.
From what I have seen, it has not gotten much better.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So,
but hardcore, like the people who've been clamoring for this, they'll swear by it. So
I know. Because nobody can admit they are wrong. Anywho, all right. Well, we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.